Good morning. How y'all doing? Nice to see you all. I think there's a very few of you. This is your first Congress, right? So you've probably never heard a presentation from myself at Congress, but I did start doing this in 1996. The first Congress I went to was in 1995 in Iowa. So it's been a little more than 20 quick years. So it's been a great gig for me, and I've had a great time, and I hope to keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on, right? If I can get this thing to work for a while, but it's going to cave down on me. Today, what am I going to do? I'm just going to give you a quick update on the important issues that impact on all of us, in particular those things that I'm involved in and the manufacturers are involved in. I do work for all four of the manufacturers, so that's Arctic, BRP, Polaris, and Yamaha. Today I'm going to give you that update, and we might as well begin. Is that the U.S. sales? Is that what showed up there? I hit the right button. If you look at the U.S. sales, you're going to see that they were down a little bit this year, approximately 4%. So we sold 56,006 new snowmobiles in the United States. Not surprising, since most of us had little to no snow. We started out quite strong. September, October, parts of November, advanced sales were strong, and it didn't snow for a while. And at least I live in Michigan, and it didn't really start snowing until January 6th or 7th. So it was a slow start in the season, but I think we did okay, better than some thought. If we look at the last 6 years, U.S. sales have been up about 10%. So we're just about performing, by the way, where the gross domestic product performed. GDP has only risen about 10% in the last 6 years. So we've had the slowest growing economy, if you didn't know it, that we've had in the United States in at least 60 years. This has been a slow, slow decade. And it looks like it's going to continue to be slow. So we see how we'll do in 2017. We have continuing challenges in the marketplace, but we'll do quite well, I'm sure. Next, Canadian sales. How do we do in Canada? Not very well. Sales were down in Canada approximately 12%. So we only sold 44,431 new snowmobiles in the great country of Canada. Canadian sales, that's down about 12%. But if you look at the last 6 years, they're down just a little over 10% in total. The economy in Canada was growing faster initially. They've only had a slowdown recently. A lot of those sales declines really can be pointed just simply at Alberta. The Alberta economy has been hit pretty hard with the price of oil, and of course the drastic fires that have occurred in Alberta recently has really slowed down what's going on in Alberta. They're going to need all of our help, and there's certainly a key topic of discussion in Ottawa. It's a lot going on in Alberta. This is where I get to teach a little bit about economics, because I have been a faculty member in economics for a while. What's up there now? Determinants of demand? A lot of times folks ask me, why are sales going down? Why are sales going up? A lot of times people only like to point to one determinant. I actually am a school-trained economist, and I always point to all 6 of the determinants. So you better consider them when you're doing any type of analysis. And I work with the statistics committee at the organization, within the organization, on a monthly basis, represents each of the manufacturers. So their number crunchers and I get together and talk this stuff out about every month. Quite a boring meeting, right? But it's kind of interesting to me, because this is what we look at. We look, first of all, every single month, is disposable income going up or down? Generally speaking, it's flat in the United States, right? It was going up in Canada, now it's flat. How about wealth? Wealth is nothing more than home values and stock values. Most of us have realized an increase in home values and stock values. So that's a positive. Taste. According to Consumer Insight, the study that we've done, studies we continue to do, people want to go snowmobiling. There are, on a scale of 1 to 10, individuals that don't own a snowmobile rate 9 as a level of interest, right? So they want to go snowmobiling. That's why we initiated the Go Snowmobiling campaign. People want you to ask them to go snowmobiling. Sometimes easier said than done, but they do want to try and they want to go snowmobiling. So we need to do as best as we can to bring some of our friends out snowmobiling. It'll encourage more sales, by the way. Next is confidence. Confidence report is done every month. Happens to be done at the University of Michigan by a guy named Dr. Curtin, a guy that I've known for more than 30 years. He does all the survey work for the recreational vehicle industry, and he's the Assistant Dean of Economics at the University of Michigan. Confidence report is highlighting that confidence in the United States is pretty flat. We've been running around the 90s. Just for memory, back in the good old days, in 2004 and 2005, when that horrible President Bush was president, we had a confidence rating of about 120. Sometimes numbers get in the way, don't they? Following confidence, we have price and availability of substitutes. One of the biggest substitutes that we have is, quite honestly, another product that we make, right? ATVs and side-by-sides. So in some cases, those products are substituting for snowmobiles to some buyers. I think we all know that. We certainly know that in the business. The question is how much. So does it impact on our sales? To a certain degree. Price and availability of related goods. I put down snow and gas. Because in this business, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you think, snow is the key determinant. And it's the one we don't really have control over. We're not in the downhill ski industry, right? We can't quite make snow for the trails. So if it snows, guess what? We look like the smartest people in the room because everybody buys sleds. If it doesn't snow, we got to work at it, right? The other key determinant of demand is that related good called gas. We've been fortunate to have low gas prices for a while. It looks like they're going to continue to stay relatively low, but they're starting to creep up, aren't they? Slowly but surely. We're putting more emphasis on gas and oil coming from Iran in the international world. Nigeria oil fields are being attacked. We used to import up to 18% of our oil from New Jersey. And, of course, our president killed the Keystone Pipeline, which would have increased oil into the United States refineries by between 14 and 18%. Sorry, Canadians, in particular, sorry, Alberta. We had nothing to do with that. So we'll see what the availability and price of gas will hold in the future. And finally is population. The change in population, which is where we spent some time recently looking at it amongst the Statistics Committee. How is the population changing in the United States? A lot. And Canada? A lot. So what I did is I put together the numbers for the U.S. and Canada, size of the generations. Take a look at it. World War II and the swing generation. Those are you people that are just a little older than me, in some cases a lot older, David. But you were born in 1945 and earlier. There's about 30 million of you. 30 million of you, your numbers are going down, yes. Every year you're going down, death happens, right? So you got 30 million of you, but you should know, and everybody in this room should know, because I know there's quite a few. How many are members of the swing and the World War II generation? Raise your hands. Oh, there's more of you than I thought. I got to be careful. But you should know, and if people don't in the room don't know, they are the wealthiest segment per capita of the population in North America. Did you know that? You are. You are the wealthiest. So you've got the ability to buy all this stuff. So we hope you go out and keep on snowmobiling and buying. Next is the baby boomers, 82 million of us. So those are people born between 46 and 64. I'm in that group. How many here are baby boomers? Whoa, look at that. It's a scary crowd, isn't it? So boomers, there's 82 million of us. We know we've been driving the bus for a long time, right? And we're starting to get a little older. I'm going to be 68 years old in a month. So I'm at the front end. I was born in 48. So time flies when you're having fun. Followed in by the little X generation. There's only about 60 million of you. How many of you are there? Well, if you notice, the breakdown in this room is kind of almost mirroring what's going on so far, right? In the generational breakdown. So Generation X, you're the ones that are going to benefit the most, by the way, when us boomers are forced to sell our homes. Because you're going to steal our homes. That's what I teach in my econ course. I said, if you're an X generation, just hang on for a little while because we got to sell our big homes because the 4 kids moved out. So we're going to give them away to you before we move south. So have a good time. Next generation is the millennials. These are the ones we got to work on. 84 million of you between age of 19 and 31. I know there's millennials somewhere over here. Where are you? Look at that small group. Well, you know, your representation in this room does not represent the representation you have in the United States and Canada, right? Because in case you don't know, look at that number, and there's more of you than any other generation in the United States and Canada. So where the boomers used to rule the roost, millennials are going to rule the roost if they aren't already. We have to know that as manufacturers, and the reason I'm talking to you all is club people, association people, guess where your numbers are going to come from? From that small table sitting over there in the corner. So do we have our work cut out for us? You betcha, because we haven't quite figured them all out. We don't really know what they want to do, but I have 2 millennial daughters, 2 X-generation daughters. Yeah, I got 4 girls, that's why I'm working. And so there's a reason I'm standing here. But the millennials like to snowmobile. They like to snowmobile almost as much as we do as boomers. They have very similar likes and dislikes, believe it or not. They're having to spend a little bit more money on their electronic gadgets that they can't put down. So turn off your phones over there. And all the other stuff that they like to use, that's where they spend a lot more of their money. But they're starting to buy stuff. They make up the majority of the workforce. Want me to say that again? They make up the majority of the workforce. So they don't make as much money as they should, because we're not going to retire yet. But they make up the majority of the workforce. So their opportunities to buy are in their future, and the opportunities for us to sell is in our future. But it will happen quickly. It will happen very quickly as we start to retiring quicker every single day. Remember, there's about 8,000 of us turning 65 every single day. Every single day. Over 8,000 of us turning 65. So if you haven't signed up for Social Security, you better. So the future is going to be challenging for whoever gets to run this country. And then the post-millennial group, I call them the echo generation. They haven't been named yet necessarily by economists. There's 74 million of them and growing. So they're almost as large as the millennials. So there's a lot of them. They're very different, though, than any generation. Very different. 42% of them right now do not have English as their first language. 42% do not have English as their first language. I go to meetings every month in Washington, sometimes every 2 weeks. I'll be in D.C. next week, believe it or not. I get here, I fly home, change my clothes, take a shower, and go to Washington, D.C. for a few days. I meet with folks that talk to us about how we're going to expand tourism and how maybe we're going to expand the recreation activity in the country. And it wasn't long ago I was at a meeting and I got these numbers. And I asked them, I said, what should we do to prepare for this non-English speaking crowd coming into the marketplace? And you know what they told me? Because I'm the guy that asked the question. Learn the language. Learn the language. I'm a little too old to learn a new language. As I've told people at breakfast, I could only speak Polish until I was 4. My parents were both born in Poland. So I'm a first-generation Polish kid that speaks perfect English because we totally assimilated, right? Totally assimilated. I forgot most of my Polish unless you start speaking Polish to me. Then I'll understand you. But this group here may not assimilate quite as quickly. We just need to know it. I'm not trying to paint any picture other than the truth. And that number could grow to up over 50% of non-English speaking young people in the United States. We got to figure out how to sell to them. They told me, and I've told the manufacturers at my last meeting, hopefully you've got plans. You're starting to train people up on the Spanish language, other languages, and be prepared for the new world. I want you to know it's coming, so I don't want you to say you're surprised if I'm here speaking to you 15 years from now. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? You're not supposed to laugh. All right. Worldwide sales, how do we do worldwide? Not real good. 126,972 in total. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the sales were down quite a bit elsewhere than a little bit in the United States, a little bit more in Canada, a whole bunch in Russia is where we lost most of our sales. In Norway, our sales actually went up. We're at about 5,441 units in Norway, which is the biggest number we've ever sold in Norway in the history of the business. Main reason is the Norwegians are building trails in the southern part of their country, right? Wasn't long ago we had a meeting with a bunch of Norwegian regulators and government types. We met them out in West Yellowstone, Montana, took them snowmobiling in the Gallatin. They said, we really like this snowmobiling. We said, good, then why don't you allow your people to build snowmobile trails in southern Norway, where it was illegal until just recently. So we were able to lobby them. It's not easy for an ex-Polish American kid to lobby Norwegians, by the way, because they're all taller than me, and they're a lot bigger than me, and they don't speak Polish, but they speak perfect English. So the Norwegians have embraced, and they're building new trails, and it's great. And they got a lot of money. They have the second highest per capita income in the world, $144,000 per person. We're at about $48,000 per person. Do the math. They own more Teslas per capita in Norway than any other country in the world. Do the math. We want to sell them more snowmobiles. They're building trails. We're going to help them build more trails. I'll go over there anytime. The Norwegian women are beautiful. Don't take me so serious sometimes. Laugh a little bit. Sweden. We sold about 9,629. So it was down just a little from last year. But remember, in Norway, there's about 4.3 million people. Sweden's 8.9 million people. Finland's about 5.1 million people. Finland's sales fell to 2,725. It's a pretty substantive drop in Finland, mostly because nobody's buying Nokia phones anymore, right? You ever been to Helsinki? Right? Built by Nokia. Unbelievably beautiful city. But we're all buying these fancy phones, iPhones, Apples, whatever they are. We don't buy too many Nokias anymore, so their economy is a little slower. And Russia, where we used to sell 33,000 snowmobiles a year, in 2014, I told you all that Russia may soon be the second largest market for snowmobiles in the world. I thought they would bypass Canada. Oh, then they invaded Crimea, invaded parts of Ukraine, shot down an airplane flying out of Amsterdam and killed a bunch of European children. Caused themselves some real problems, right? Sanctions have been issued, price of oil dropped, their currency fell. This past year they sold 6,275. So from a high of about 33,000 to 6,000. In case you're wondering why there aren't any Russians here. Am I making it perfectly clear for you? So there's a country of 148 million and declining. I worked in Russia long enough to know, with Russians, to know why their population is declining, by the way. I'll just tell you a short story, because you and I were talking about this type of stuff a couple days ago. Stacy and I were. And what's happening in Russia is a lot of the people don't want to have children. They don't want to have children. Why? Because they don't want them to live in basically a socialist society. So, because we were talking about Bernie. Bernie pisses me off. Just so you know, because I told you, I have two millennial children and two X-children. Two X-generation children, not two X-children. But the children, my children are like radically conservative. And sometimes people say, how did they get like that? I said, you ever have dinner at the table with me? As a family, we've always had dinners together every single night. We have a lot of breakfast on the weekends together. We got a great family, and we talk politics, and we talk economics. Because I do have 2 master's degrees in economics, and I've been an adjunct faculty member of a major university for 23 long years. So, but I'm retiring from that because it's kicking my butt. But I do encourage you and children, and especially you millennials over there, if you get advanced degrees and you can go out and try to influence and teach young people of the world, do it. And do it as parents, and do it as most of us are grandparents. Because if we don't, nobody else is gonna. Because some of the crap the teachers are teaching them now is just plain wrong, and you need to correct a lot of it. You need to correct a lot of it, and what they may see and hear on the internet is wrong. And quite honestly, if we don't correct it, nobody's going to, and they're all going to be cheering for Bernie. And if we get Bernie as the president someday in the future, I think you'll know what'll happen. Turn on the news tonight and watch what's going on in Venezuela. I have friends that moved from Venezuela in 1998, just before Chavez was elected. From 1999 till now, Venezuela is a socialist country today, right? Their GDP has fallen 70%. That's why they're rioting in the street, because they don't have anything to eat. They're killing their dogs to eat. Welcome socialism. Call Bernie. I won't talk about it that much longer, but you got to get into this, because we can't have this stuff continue. History of snowmobile registrations, where's that at? Next one. Where are we at? United States, we're at 1.262 million, quite a few, down from previous years. Most of the decline this year was due to the fact that it didn't snow, so a lot of people didn't register their sleds. We still have a lot of used snowmobiles in garages. We probably still have 1.6, 1.7 million sleds out there, but they just weren't registered. So we have to report the registrations. In Canada, it went up a little to 634,720. Most of that increase was due to the fact that we counted the sleds in Nunavut properly. We didn't think they had very many, and all of a sudden Dennis and I sat down and said, well, they got a lot of snowmobiles in Nunavut, way more than we thought. So it really helped drive up the number and to make it more factually based in Canada. So these are pretty good numbers that we're showing you right here, and it's the numbers we're going to use. They're still standard at about 700,000 in Europe and Russia, not any big movement. Our 2015 survey results. We do these surveys via the internet. We do it via Facebook, and we do some by direct mail that we receive. We correspond our survey results with the manufacturer's results. Again, I talk to the stats committee and they look at this stuff. We see the median age is falling a little bit to 42. It was 44 last year. That didn't happen with the people buying sleds, so the manufacturer's numbers were a little different, right? But the registered and people snowmobiling went down just a little bit. So what's happening is the real top-end guys like David, a lot of guys like David Lowe are not snowmobiling. I think David's 80-something, right? So he's, how old? 88. He's not snowmobiling quite as much, and there's not many 88-year-olds out there. They're starting to fall off the grid, and we're starting to have an increase in the 20-somethings. So we're starting to see the age come down. It isn't coming down for the manufacturers because guess what those young people are buying? Used sleds, exactly. They're all buying used sleds, most of them, unless they got a rich mom and dad. First snowmobile purchase was used, still staying at 72%. Interesting to me, the number that say they belong to a club or an association, about 65 to 68%. I think a lot more people belong to clubs and the different groups than we realize. They may not belong to the state or provincial association, but they belong to their local clubs. Miles ridden, 1210. It's down about 30%, 20% from last year. Other recreational pursuits, which is another reason I go to all these meetings in Washington to talk to all these different groups. Is that the one that tells you what else people do? 59% go fishing, so I hang out with the people that represent the fishing industry, because they're our people, right? 55% boat, 52% camp, 50% ride ATVs, 39% hunt, 32% hike, golfing, motorcycle riding, PWC riding, downhill skiing, and other. In other words, a lot of us in the recreation industry, we share same customers. So we hope that you all keep on making a lot of money because you buy a lot of stuff from everybody. How are we doing this in the other businesses this year? RV sales are up to the highest level they've ever been at in their history, in case you don't know it. Everybody's buying a travel trailer, a motorhome, or a camping trailer because everybody's got a new pickup truck, thank goodness, right? So RV sales are up. Boat sales are up, but about 4 or 5%. Most of those sales increases are pontoons. Most of them are pontoons, not many hull boats anymore. Most of the new boats are selling are pontoons. Golf's down, skiing's down, ATV's up, the side-by-sides are up, motorcycles are up, and guess what gun sales are doing? Skyrocketing. So I meet with, and these are the people that I'll meet with in another couple weeks, people that represent the international organizations that represent these groups of business, and we all sit down and share lies and drink coffee. We have our websites. I think you know what they are. We've had over 4 million visitors again last year. We got good numbers. We got a Facebook that might be a little lame, but we don't pay anybody to give us names. So we got 8,600 likes, and some of you may follow it. I don't know. I'm still a stubby pencil guy. E15 update. We know that E15 still doesn't work. I've talked about ethanol for a long time. This is a relatively challenging state to talk about ethanol, South Dakota, because you make a lot of ethanol here. I've had lengthy conversations with Senator Thune about ethanol. He knows E15 doesn't work in a snowmobile. He knows that. He knows E15 doesn't work in a boat engine. He knows that. So do everybody, by the way. And it blows up most of your lawnmowers and chainsaws. So we tell people don't use E15, but you can, you should, and we do use E10. So we're not anti-ethanol. Our products just only use ethanol to a certain level. So we love E10, E15 Baba. Because what happens when you test a snowmobile using E15? Exhaust temperatures heat up, and guess what? The snowmobile lights on fire. So don't put E15 in your snowmobile. Don't let your children go to the gas station and put E15 in your snowmobile because it will light up in a relatively short period of time. Thankfully, the federal government recently, with the EPA recommendation, lowered the blend wall. Back in 2005, they set the blend wall at 32 billion gallons of ethanol. In other words, the government said, we want you folks making ethanol to make 32 billion gallons of ethanol. That's a lot of ethanol. How are we going to use it? A lot of people thought that some people would use E85 in your pickup trucks, right? Or your cars. I drive a Z71 Silverado, says I can use E15. E85, I'm sorry. I put E85 in my truck, and what happened? Boom. Lose a lot of horsepower. Some of the lights come on the dashboard, and my miles per gallon got worse. So I don't burn E85. I'm like 99% of the people that drive a Chevrolet Silverado Z71. We don't use E85, even though we can. So we made that choice. So none of us are burning much ethanol. So they're scrambling now to figure out where to burn the ethanol. Other manufacturers building other engines haven't built engines that can burn higher blended ethanol. So there's a lot of extra ethanol. They lowered the blend wall to 14 billion gallons versus 32. Will there be a noticeable difference in this part of the world, in other parts of the world, on corn demand? Yep, there will be. As I've told other folks, we have also tested butane. Butane is a corn derivative product, fuel. Butane works perfectly in our product, by the way. All the products you guys use. Costs more money, takes more time to make butane. So if we want to figure out how to use all this corn we're growing, other than eat it, laugh a little bit, we can burn it, but we have to turn it into butane. I personally have always been an individual that wonders about a population that burns its food source. That's just me. That's just me. So we still can't use it. We're very active with OPEI and others, making sure to inform people, don't use E15 in your snowmobile. Geez, I started late and I'm going late. I can go a little longer. You want me to keep talking? Because I'm supposed to almost be done. We got our Safe Riders program. I won't talk much about it because I always talk about it. We're updating it a lot. Safe Riders material is available. All the stuff. Still once in a while, I still run across people that don't know about the Safe Riders information. I don't know where you've been living, but maybe I'm doing a bad job in telling people about it. So we'll keep on putting the logo out there and putting the message out there that we have the collateral material that quite honestly works. So use it, right? Use it. We'll send it to you. Snowmobile safety. We also have what? The avalanche awareness and the safety training has expanded. Our relationships with Avalanche Canada and the U.S. Forest Service has grown. We've got the 5, what do we call them? Key issues. Get the gear, get the training, get the forecast, get the picture, get out of harm's way. Oh, there it is. There it is. You can just look at that. We've agreed to partner with a group called Sled 360. It's basically he's a programmer out of the great state of Washington. He's put together a program to help us disseminate avalanche knowledge. I guess there's some more fancy words that I could use, but I'm not going to use them. There will be some hands-on training offered through the internet, but most of it is going to be involved in recommending trainers to individual riders. And that's what this website, and that's what the social networking program that he's putting together for us will do. So it'll be available from New Hampshire all the way to Washington and from Newfoundland all the way to BC. So if you're going to want to find out how to get trained up and train yourself up, there's this option. Because one thing that he learned and one thing that we've learned is that more and more people that ride in avalanche country, and I'm looking at Jason here, and I know he does this stuff. I can't ride that good, so I don't go up in the mountains. But people that do, more and more of them want to ride with people that have had avalanche safety training because they're carrying a probe, they're carrying a shovel, and they got a beacon and they know how to use it. Because guess what? It doesn't matter if you know how to do all that stuff if you're buried in snow. You want your buddy or your wife or whoever you're riding with to know what the hell they're doing. And what I'm finding out is that more and more people that I talk to want to ride with people that are avalanche trained. And in many cases now, they won't ride with them because they're not going out riding with yahoos, right? Because the sleds will go higher all the time. No doubt about it, we're making sleds that can take you higher in the mountains all the time. Guess what we'll build next year? One that can take you further in the mountains. So if you're going to ride in the mountains, get trained up. Make sure your buddy's getting trained up, and make sure you all have the equipment. Because if your buddy doesn't have the equipment, you look at him and you're going to say, how's he going to dig through the snow and how's he going to find me? So be selfish about it. And talk openly about it. No Yahoo factors allowed, okay? Go back? I don't know. I might ruin my whole machine here. Get the, yeah, those are the 5. Get the gear, get the training. I should have them memorized. Worked a long time on trying to develop these with the avalanche trainers. Get the gear, get the training, get the forecast, get the picture, get out of harm's way. The last one is maybe the most important one just to highlight, because the deaths that occurred in Canada, a lot of them this past year, is because they didn't get out of harm's way. What we all do, I've done very little mountain riding, but I've done some. We always like to kind of sit in the avalanche terrain fallout area, I think they call it. I don't know all the terms, but I know what it looks like. And when you sit there and you're watching your buddy climb the mountain, you're sitting in the wrong place. Because if he or she causes an avalanche, guess where that snow's coming? It's coming to bury you. And that's what happened recently in this past winter in British Columbia and elsewhere. So people that are just sitting there minding their own business, engines off, drinking a Gatorade, they're buried to death. So park in the right spot, don't turn your engine off, and be aware of what can happen, because it can happen quick. But it's so much fun. Just don't make a mistake, okay? What's next? Come on. There we go. ISMA grant, we support all different types. We're going to do the grant program again. Most of you, if not all of you, have had your organization apply for grants. We're going to do it again this year. Please apply. We've got some money to give you. How many times have I said that to you? Clean Snowmobile Challenge, the SAE Snowmobile Challenge. We've been sponsoring this for, 20 years. The one coming up in 2017, March 6th through 11. The winner again this year, University of Wisconsin-Madison. They got a lot of good engineers. They do an amazing job, those young students from Wisconsin. They're not quite sure when they accept the award from a Michigander, but they like it. They like it. I say go Badgers to them. For those of you out here that don't know who the Badgers are, that's Wisconsin Badgers? Yeah, okay. International Snow Science Workshop, we will be there with bells on, we being the manufacturers. It's going to be in Breckenridge, Colorado, October 3 through 7. There'll be 1,200 to 1,500 avalanche and snow experts from the world will be in Breckenridge. We'll be there participating. I'm buying them all coffee one day so I get a chance to talk to them and pass out information about snowmobiling. So if you're looking for me first week in October, I'm going to be in Breckenridge, Colorado. Nice place to hang out, don't you think, Jack? Yep. Hanging out with people talking about snowmobiling. U.S. Forest Service, we got a lot going on. We got the travel management plan that I'm assuming you've heard quite a bit about. It worked out quite well for us. You know, we were active in the lawsuit initially to have it being considered, right? I think we came to a really good conclusion. So the over-snow vehicle management is moving along, I think, exceptionally well. We have real concern, though, with fires. I recently read a report in quotes, from Tom Vilsack from Iowa, right? He's the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture. That's where the Forest Service is. And Tom Tidwell, the Forest Service Chief. So I don't make this stuff up. They're concerned about thousands of forest fires. They think that in another year or two, or maybe this year if it gets bad, 2/3 of their budget may be used up fighting fires. I've got the stats here on how much they might spend on fighting fires. So it might just turn out to be a firefighting exercise. The other day when I was in Washington, D.C., I did ask one question of the assistant. The one question I had was, have you been modeling the fires and trying to compare that to how many trees you harvest? Nasty question. You know what they said? Nope. I go, have you ever thought about doing that? Nope. We harvest about 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 billion board feet less today than we did 10, 15 years ago out of the U.S. forest. Guess what happens when trees get old? They burn. They die, they fall, they burn. Don't get me carried away. Because, you know, we're spending a little bit more money on all of our timber. And we're getting more of it from Canada, so we're glad to help you out a little bit. But we've got quite a bit here. And we're not doing much with it. Other important DC issues, we got designated wilderness expanding. Department of Interior spending, it's up for the parks. That's good. It's down overall for the Department of Interior, which I guess is okay. Somehow we're going to have to get a hold of our budget, right? Someday, sooner or later, we're all going to have to take some cuts, in case we don't know it. I'm assuming we all kind of know that. DC issues that are still ongoing, at least with me, is the adaptive management plan for Yellowstone, or adaptive management efforts in Yellowstone, and the expansion of the non-commercially guided visitation in the Yellowstone. I'll go to Yellowstone once a month or once a year, participate in some of those meetings. BRC, Jack Welch, just sent out a nice note highlighting how the non-commercially guided folks are signing up. We're trying to make that expansive. I think it's real positive in the future. I think we got good people working with us in Yellowstone. To me, nothing but compliments. A long way from 10, 15 years ago. Long way away. I wanted to mention, since we're talking about DC issues, that AXA held an amazing fly-in April 9, 10, 11. Some of you participated. You guys did a great job. Had about 80 folks show up in Washington, D.C., had meetings for a couple days, did hill visits, visited over 200 offices, U.S. Congress and Senate. Did a great job. I followed up on some of your work, went to D.C. the next week, and you were rock stars. So members of Congress and Senate really like seeing you. They don't necessarily like seeing me, but they like seeing their constituents. So anytime you get a chance to talk to your congressman or a woman or a senator, talk to them. Talk to them about whatever issue you want to, but make sure you say something about snowmobiling. Because sooner or later they're going to vote on an issue that impacts on your life and on snowmobiling. And a lot of them are home now about pretty soon, because they're going to come home and get ready for the next election. Heaven forbid. What's the next screen say again? What's that again? National Park Service. Oh. This is just a funny one I put in because I couldn't believe it when I read it. National Park Service, their philanthropic partners position was called controversial. Why? Because the Park Service, Mr. Jarvis, signed a contract and said he's going to take $2.5 million to support the park centennial celebration from Anheuser-Busch. He said budgets are tight. I just think it's funny. Maybe I got bad sense of humor. But I don't know if it's right or wrong, but some people in Washington are all worked up. It just reminded me of back when I started in this organization in 1995. We were taking quite a bit of money back then from Miller Brewery, and we had the Steer Clear program. And I came on board, and I read the program, and it says, well, you can go snowmobiling and just drink a little. I went, wow, who in the hell thought of this one? And so, that's plain English, but I went to the board and the people that I worked for, and I said, who did think of this? So they had money for us, and we decided to take the money. So sometimes money will make you do crazy things. We don't take money anymore, and we don't allow our program to be sponsored by alcohol distributors or producers, do we? So we don't have any affiliation. Thank goodness, because in 1996, I went to a meeting in Minnesota, and I'm looking here, and Marlis and Joanne were at that meeting, and we were going to talk about snowmobile safety, and who sat next to me? But the executive director of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Ooh, thank God we had a no alcohol campaign, or I would have got my butt kicked. So I just think it's funny. I don't know if the national park's going to change their position, but it's kind of a fun fact that I just thought I'd point out, especially the comment when they said budgets are tight, because they're going to get tighter. So maybe we'll have more alcohol. I hope not. Is this, what's this, other DC issues? Yeah, the Wolverine study. This is a good one. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But we got more national monuments too. So far, I think we've had 23 or 24. That's for the president with his pen. You know the president that says, I got a phone and I got a pen? Doesn't need the legislative body? Remember when he said that? Yeah. Yep. He's got a pen. So he's established 23 monuments. He's shut down about 2.5, 3 million acres of land from us, all of us. And guess what he's going to do probably next week? Sign another one, because he's got a pen. The one that probably gets our attention the most, because the other ones haven't impacted on snowmobiling too much, is the one in the great state of Maine. I know Maine's not represented here, at least I don't believe they are now, but I still talk to Bob Myers because I've snowmobiled all over Maine and it's wonderful snowmobiling. But there's about 87,500 acres that's owned by a woman named Roxanne Quimby, who happens to be a strong supporter of President Obama, and she wants to transfer that property to the federal government. We've talked to her. I've talked to members of the Maine Congressional Group and said, be careful what you wish for. She's getting ready to do it. There's snowmobile trails that run through this property. They've been working on trying to reroute the property, but it looks like we might get another monument in Maine. 87,500 acres. Some of the land that they'll turn into monuments are prime snowmobiling country. We'll see how they do. The president wanted to turn it into a national park, except the U.S. House and Senate said, hell no. And they have to approve a national park, but they don't have to approve a monument, because he's got a... All right. That's a wolverine. Thought I'd point it out to you. I lived in Ann Arbor for a while, home of the Wolverines. There's no Wolverines in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But, well, there are Wolverines, but not them. Those are nasty critters, right? Pound for pound, they're about the roughest there are. We got about 300 Wolverines in the United States, give or take a few, they think. They think they got 3,000 to 4,000 in Canada, give or take a more, they think. The Fish and Wildlife Service declined to list the wolverine because they didn't feel it was endangered. But guess what? Greenies took it to court, and the U.S. District Court of Montana, Judge Dana Christensen, you know her, Jason? Good old Dana. She ordered that the issue be revisited. So those of us that are involved in this type of work, in particular in your part of the world, Jason, you're going to be looking for wolverines. So when they start trying to figure it out and do some more studies, I just encourage everybody in this part of the world where they think there might be wolverines to participate at a pretty high level with the Forest Service and see if you can give them any help. North Dakota's got them now. North Dakota's here. Montana's here. Idaho. Washington. Michigan's the Wolverine state. We have no Wolverines. At least we don't think so. Last one died 2 years ago. All right. What's that one? EU update? Is that it? We're getting them close to harmonizing with us as far as sound and emissions. The big one is sound because they're trying to do 113 different vehicles at the same time. What a zoo. So I thought the regulatory exercise here in the United States was complicated compared to the European exercise. It ain't anything. Because there you have 28 countries that are all members of the EU. They all have their own experts. They all have their own ideas. It's a lot of work. It's very complicated. We'll wait and see what happens because you know what happens on June 23rd, right? Mark it on your calendar, June 23rd, watch the news. It's when the United Kingdom gets a chance, their people get a chance to vote if they're going to stay in the EU or not. So right now, the Brexit votes are winning. So if they were going to have the vote today in the UK would exit from the European Union. That will really cause a lot of issues to change in the EU. We don't get a chance to vote. We can't influence it. See what happens in the UK. It's a big discussion. One thing I will tell you, I go to Brussels every couple months. Haven't been there in a while, but every couple months I go there. I used to work with a lot of UK experts. They have all vacated Brussels. They're all back in the UK. All of them. Every single one of them. I don't know what that says, but it says something. It says something to me. So we'll wait and see what happens. They've always still used the pound, but they're not happy with the EU right now. I could go on and tell you why, but I'm not going to. It's my secret. I can tell you over a beer, not on a microphone. Canadian update. Avalanche Canada doing great work. Transport Canada, we're working real closely with them still. Environment Canada, great. They got a new parliament and a new prime minister, right? Prime minister in Canada. So I got a couple pictures. I participated in an event in Ottawa, getting to know some of the new members of parliament. CCSO and Dennis Burns did a great job, and they provided me with some nice pictures. I think they had about 44, 50 members of parliament and or their staff members. They spent a whole day or half of a day. What do you think? Drinking beer, eating peanuts, talking about snowmobiling. So they did a real nice job there. Real positive in that picture is Remy from Ontario, and I think he's here, Paul Shaughnessy, with a Conservative MP, Dr. Kelly Leaked. So some Conservatives showed up, a lot of Liberals, because it's mostly Liberals. Big change in politics in Canada. And I seldom get my picture taken with a group, but there I am, because I got my picture taken with a guy named Harry Cummings. He's the guy in the middle between Dennis and I. We get along pretty good. He's an economist. He did the economic impact review and study for the CCSO. And he supported our position that we generate $7.8 billion worth of economic activity in Canada. It's a big number, the biggest number they've ever had. Generate 40,000 jobs, and they collect $1.4 billion in taxes from snowmobilers every year. What do you think of that? It's a big economic impact. Those economic impact numbers that I just gave you, they're not on the board, will go a long way in our discussions in Ottawa. And that's why I like all of you folks to do economic impact studies when it snows. Don't do an economic impact study when we had a winter like last year. I won't give you the money. You got to have a little snow on the ground. And thankfully, that prime minister, the guy in the yellow, that's Justin Trudeau. He snowmobiles. He snowmobiles. I like that because I have a picture in my office of Mr. Harper on a snowmobile, the recent prime minister. So 2 prime ministers in a row, both like to snowmobile. I don't have a picture of President Obama on a snowmobile. Just thought I'd bounce that out there for you. Don't be surprised. Okay, we have Friends of Snowmobiling Political Action Committee. Bill said we did a great job. We did have a great job. I'm sorry for those of you that I make strong drinks for, but hopefully you had a lot of fun. I've never been a bartender. But it seemed I made some of you happy anyway. We do support candidates for federal election, right? Federal election candidates only. We support friends that are Friends of Snowmobiling. So really, we've got a little money now that we can help give you. So if you're going to have lunch or dinner or breakfast with a friend of snowmobiling, member of the Senate or House or a candidate, and you want to go and talk to him and her, don't be afraid to call me and ask me for a check. Send me the invitation that they've sent you. And if you need $200 to $300 to go have a meeting with them, call me. I'll send you the money. That's what the money's for. It's way better if you give them the money when I give them the money. Because remember, I'm the hired gun. They expect money from me. They want you guys to give them the money, and they want to talk to you because you vote in their neighborhood. So please call me, and if you can, participate in any of these political fundraisers that are Friends of Snowmobiling. Sometimes you can have fun. It's always lousy chicken, but it's a fun trip. Okay? You can have a little bit of fun. You just got to have the right attitude. And thank God we got our Political Action Committee in before Lois Lerner took over. We've only been audited 3 times. Don't worry. I'm not joking. I don't joke about that stuff. That's for darn sure. There she is. I just thought I have a few pictures to show you, remind you that's what Hillary looks like. No, she's not on a snowmobile. I put that picture up there because I just read her great outdoors policy position. I just read it. It's just been released. It's on my computer. You should read it if you want to know where she stands. I'm not going to tell you. I've memorized it. I know where she stands. You recognize that guy? That's the guy. Remember, he was the president of the United States when they kicked us out of every national park in the United States. We focused on Yellowstone because that's where the big fight was. And besides that, the Democrats got all the other national parks open by going to the president. So that's why Tom Daschle supported us, by the way. After we explained to him what happened, he said, "Oh, I'll sign that rider. I mean, you can't own the only snowmobile, the only park you can't really go to that you used to go to is Yellowstone?" I go, "Yeah, it's because it's in a Republican district." He goes, "That's bullshit." I said, "Thank you, Tom." He pushed in the rider, right? He's the guy that signed it. I think it's important that you remember because guess who's together and guess who might be in the White House together? Just so you know. I thought I'd take a picture of this guy too. Guy's Don Barry. He's the assistant. He was the undersecretary of the Department of Interior. He's the guy that signed the order to kick us out of the national parks. Guess where I saw him a couple weeks ago? In Washington. At a Clinton fundraiser. Just so you know. That's Michael Dombeck. You recognize him, right? Michael Dombeck used to run the Forest Service, but he's the gentleman, I still have his quote in my office, that he's the guy that wanted to turn our national forest into pre-European settlement conditions. Remember those words? Just imagine what your forest would look like if they were pre-European settlement conditions. Close your eyes and think of that. They have lights. They have roads. They have restrooms. They have campgrounds. What do you think? A lot of forest fires. Who's that? Bernie. He's the guy that I think you should make sure to talk to your children about and give them pictures of Venezuela. And if you can find pictures, give them pictures of Russia. It's Mr. Steiner. He's the new rich money man for the Democratic Party, right? He's the hedge fund operator worth about $2 billion with a B. He's already announced he's going to contribute $500 million to Democratic candidates this year. So you'll see him in your neighborhood, or at least you'll see his money coming to your neighborhood if you have a Democrat running against a Republican. He was also most of the money behind stopping the Keystone Pipeline, if it matters to you. He's the new money man for the Democratic Party. And I just thought I'd give you a picture of the Donald, because it'd be unfair if I didn't. And there's a picture of his son, Donald Trump Jr. You should know that Donald Trump Jr. is very active in the Sportsmen's Congress. He happens to be a good friend of Bill Horn, our lawyer. And he wants to be the Secretary of the Department of Interior if his dad gets elected president. I have no idea if he would be. But he's an outdoor guy anyway. And he's actively campaigning. And then finally, I just want to make sure you know that we got a whole bunch of new pictures. We were real busy taking pictures out in West Yellowstone, in the Gallatin. We have a whole new slew of pictures that are on our Facebook page and on our website. We encourage you to use them. We ask you to use them and use them freely. Well, I stayed way over, but I started way late. So I'm done. Thanks.